I know it was unintentional, Emil. I mean, you just sort of bumped into you. Hey, welcome to Emil Amok's Takeout. My takes on all things considerable. Oh, now who could this be? Someone says, "Hey, wait a minute, Emil Amok's Takeout. That's not you." Yeah, it is me. My takes on all things considerable. I'm your host, the aforementioned Emil Amok. Emil Amok Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. We're on a first name Amokness basis here. And this is, in fact, a secret podcast because I don't tell anybody about it. And if you're here, you found us. Thank goodness. It's the entree into Father's Day weekend. Hope you're celebrating. This is our 700th episode. From our official count, we've done 700 of these because we're on Monday through Friday. It's easy. 2 p.m. Pacific live. Lots to talk about today. I want to talk about my father's story. It's an Asian American story. It's a story that I share either in print or in some form every Father's Day. My Father's Day story coming up. It's on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog, and I'll show you the power of storytelling, how things change, and I'll give you the 2024 version. But right now, I want to talk about the World Series of Comedy, just briefly, because I'm going to be in it, not as the bat boy, but I'm going to be in it on Wednesday in Tacoma, June 19th, 7:30 at the Tacoma Comedy Club on 6th and Proctor. If you're there live, it would be so fun to see you cheer me on. And here's how you get tickets. First of all, go to the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. There it is. And then on the ALDEF blog, what you can do is click on My Father's Story Before Father's Day. And I'm going to read from that. But go all the way down. Look, and there's going to be a clickable. VIPtickethub.com, Tacoma Tickets. That's where you go. And click on it, right? And use a code. I'm going to give you the code. I'm going to go through it right now. Go to VIPtickethub.com/Tacoma Tickets. You go to that, Tacoma Comedy Club, and then you say, do you have a ticket code? Say yes, because I'm going to give you the code in a second. All right? So say yes. Enter the ticket code. The ticket code is GIVE. Oh, not GIVE. GIVE. That's a ticket code. And then number of tickets. I'm only going to be in the Wednesday show for sure. So say you want 2 tickets for the Wednesday show or 1 ticket. You can do the multiples on your own. If you bring 10 people, 5 people, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, all the people who love you. Okay, 1 ticket. All right. Now, here's the thing. If I win on Wednesday, then I advance and probably will be on the June 20th show or the June 21st show. And then if I win there, I'll be in the finals on June 22nd. And then the ultra finals, the big final, the final, June 22nd. And then you can, if I do well, you'll know. And you can buy more tickets here at the Ticket Hub or VIPtickethub.com. Okay. Now for 1 ticket, look, 1 ticket, subtotal $13. There's a little processing fee. The total is $14.79. You put down your name and all that, and you buy the tickets. So that's how you do it. VIP ticket, singular, tickethub.com, and you go to that Tacoma tickets part of the site. And once again, you get there by just going to my, the ALDEF blog, right? Go to the ALDEF blog, right? The ALDEF blog, My Father's Story Before Father's Day. Go all the way down to the bottom of that, and there you click on VIPtickethub.com/Tacoma Tickets, and then go through all of it. And if you have a code, the code is GIVE. Say, yes, you have a code. Enter the ticket code, GIVE. number of tickets on Wednesday. That's when I'm going to be performing at 7:30. These are for live tickets. Just press 1 and it'll discount the ticket to half price. Half price. Can't beat it. Can't beat it. Now say I want a live stream ticket. So click on the top where it says live stream and then find the event. The event is here for live stream for World Series of Comedy, and then pick the Tacoma Comedy Club live stream. And then there you are. And then did someone refer you? Say, yes, it was Emil, darn it. He referred me. Then find my name on that drop down. Pick a show to watch. Pick Wednesday the 19th, right? And then you choose your donation. And heck, you could choose other and say, I want to donate $1 to Emil because he does all his shows for free. Or you can say, I want to donate $10 or let's see. For a donation of $60 or more, they'll send you a souvenir t-shirt that has my name on the back. Pretty incredible, huh? So anyway, that's how it's done. Go to, once again, you can buy either a live ticket or you can buy a streaming ticket. And just go to the link at the Aldef blog where I'm reading my story today. My father's story before Father's Day. Go all the way at the bottom. And there's the link right there. VIPTicketHub.com/Tacoma tickets. And that's how you get to the live tickets, the live stream. You got to click up top to live stream. And, you know, I really want to see 1 or 2 maybe of you out there. Maybe it'd be fun. I know it's a long way to go from Tacoma, but for the live stream, if you're from the Philippines, Florida, Washington, New York, wherever, you can have access. I think the live stream you can get for as cheap as $1, as I showed you. So definitely check that out. All right. That's the World Series of Comedy. And if I get through this weekend, June 19th, the funny thing, I don't know if it's funny, but it's a thing. It's a coincidence. June 19th is Juneteenth. So, you know, people will be happy that, you know, they're free and they'll be free to laugh. That's the good thing about it. But Juneteenth for Asian Americans, of which I am one of the 27 million, Juneteenth, June 19th is also the day that we remember the beating of Vincent Chin. Now, Vincent Chin, the most famous Asian American hate crime, he didn't die on June 19th, which is why people don't think about it on June 19th. They think about it on the day he died. He was beaten on the 19th, and then he spent like 5 days on life support, and he ultimately died on the 25th. That's when they declared him dead. So it would be a nice fitting bit of karma if on the night that Vincent Chin went down and went into a coma, Emil Amok wins the wild card at the WSOC, World Series of Comedy, and then goes on in the subsequent 3-4 days to go into the finals and then qualify for the actual World Series of Comedy in September. Wouldn't that be a nice twist of fate? Maybe. I think it would be. It would be. Anyway, check that out. If you can, go there live if you're near Tacoma. And if you can't, check out the live stream. I just showed you how to do it. And it could be half price on tickets if you're there live. And it could be as cheap as $1. Cheap as $1. Can't beat that. Can't beat that. A lot of people asking, oh, no, Emil, is this what you do now? I mean, you're doing comedy? Well, sometimes. I mean, I do one-man shows, which are kind of theatrical versions of a stand-up act. And some people would rather have just pure stand-up, or some people like to have a solo show. I don't know if you saw Hannah Einbinder's show on on Max, she does a stand-up act, which is really like a solo show, which is really actually in many ways more creative and inventive storytelling. But one thing I would say that makes her more stand-up than solo show is that solo show has a narrative. A solo show has a comic narrative. It has an Aristotelian arc, right? I mean, there's a beginning, middle, and end. There's a dramatic thrust. I mean that in all the good ways and bad ways. But it's storytelling that has a flow, a journey, like any good one-act play or three-act play for that matter, right? You have an instigating moment, you have a point of no return, you have a climax, you have resolution, boom, out, applause. Hey, author. Sometimes stand-up is an amalgam of stories, and maybe there's a general theme, but the success of a stand-up is whether you like the stand-up and whether you like the stand-up's point of view, because it's constantly point of view. He's hammering. He or she is hammering that point of view. This is who I am. A comic narrative, a comic monologue is a story. I start off here in Dayton, and by golly, if we don't end up in California by the end, I've done something wrong. I mean, that's the truth. If we start out in Dayton and we're still in Dayton, it's not a true comic narrative dramatic monologue. It's a stand-up saying, hey, this is my perspective. This is me. But if we start in Dayton and we end up in Inverness, California, Point Reyes, north of San Francisco, that is Aristotle's poetics at work. Anyway, but I digress. I digress. Thank you for joining me here on Emil and Amok's Takeout. As I said, we got to get the swish in there. Oh, before I get to the meat, my Father's Day story, I do want to mention that a comedian named Cliff Cash is in Manteca in the 209 area. He is at the Deaf Puppy Comedy Club. The Deaf Puppy, which I talked to the owner, Chris. I said, from here on, I'm just saying the Deaf Puppy is my home club. This is my home. I mean, it'd be nice to say it was a punchline or something like that. Or Rooster T. Feathers. Nah. No, you're in the 209 and, you're contiguous to Manteca. Manteca's Deaf Puppy Comedy Club is it's like the first, I think. I don't think there's another comedy club in this part of the 209, southern San Joaquin County. So I told the owner, Chris, next time someone asks me, you got a home comedy club? I'm going to say, Deaf Puppy. Deaf Puppy, man. Deaf Puppy. Anyway, open mics on Wednesday nights. Except this Wednesday. I'm going to be up in Tacoma. All right, but Cliff Cash is there. Cliff Cash is there this weekend. Catch him. He's a fun guy, nice guy, Southerner. Not a southern San Joaquin County guy, but just a true Southerner. A true Southerner. And he has a perspective that is funny and fun. And I was there last night. 2 shows tonight, 7 and 9. Should be fun. Cliff Cash, Deaf Puppy Comedy Club in Manteca. All right. Now, so what are you going to tell us today, Emil? Well, I'm going to talk about my father. It's Father's Day. And this happens every Father's Day, right, with me? Every Father's Day, I consider going to a baseball game because if it's not Father's Day, it's usually like a day before Father's Day. On June 14th, I saw a baseball game with my father And it turned out to be a pretty, what shall I say? It turned out to be pretty memorable, a memorable occasion for us. And I'll tell you why. So if you go to the ALDEF blog again, aaldef.org/blog, you'll see my my face. There's me. There's me and my graduating. There's my dad. It was 1977 that was, and it was a great time for us. And I talk about it in my one-man show, Emil, Amok, Los NPR host. Little did I know that a year later, my father would be seeing his last baseball game. So I write, in 1989, I was host of NPR's All Things Considered, when, incidentally, I was also the first Asian American male to host a national news show. During my brief tenure, I'd say maybe the best story I ever told, while I had that opportunity at NPR, was to tell my father's story in an audio essay. It is the story of many Asian American fathers who came to this country. Mine as a colonized Filipino. I've told versions of the story in my collections of essays, Amok, A-M-O-K, essays from an Asian American perspective. They printed so few of them, I don't even think you can find them in a remainder bin, but you can find them online, used bookstores, things like that. I went to a library once, and there was one dog-eared copy. Someone had taken it out, and it's paperback, and it's not really, well enforced, so it was really ragged. But that was good. It got some use. So it's been printed in my. Usually I have a copy of it somewhere. I don't have a copy here. My AMOK collection. And also in the oral tradition, I've shared it as part of my Emil Amok monologues that I perform around the country. I just got back from Orlando. I was in New York in March and April. And the stand-up things I do have fragments of the show. But it's a stand-up set. But you see me. And that's where I am now, right? And then I do these things at 2 p.m. Pacific. But here is the 2024 version just for you. For people who tune into the ALDEF blog, or this is the audio version. The 2024 version of Father's Game. While Sunday will be for all us dads, even me, I always do pause for a pre-Father's Day on June 14th to remember my own late father. June 14th, 1978 was the day my dad and I had our best moment ever. We took in a day game at San Francisco's Candlestick Park, and the Giants won. My dad had an immigrant's passion for baseball, listening to games on a transistor radio. He loved baseball and all it stood for, and he loved the Giants. His name was Willie, appropriately. Weren't all the heroes in San Francisco named Willie in those days? Mays, McCovey, Guillermo. Born in the Philippines, my dad, Willie Guillermo, spoke English, but I spoke it better. It made our relationship a relatively quiet one. The only time we really connected was when life involved baseball. You see, my dad was many innings older than me, 50 years worth. And of course, this is nothing compared to the modern fatherhood feats of Al Pacino or Robert De Niro. Still, a two-generation difference like my dad is not insignificant for a non-actor like my dad. It limited what we could do together, though. He did teach me how to play ball. We go to Golden Gate Park's Panhandle, where Or else would a fry cook teach his son to play catch? It was more like fetch, though. He'd throw it, I'd chase it, throw it back, he'd duck. We both had those old-fashioned gloves, you know, the ones that look like the big one that's out in left field at the new Oracle Park. But my dad wasn't all that athletic. You know, still, he knew the difference between a basket of fries and a basket catch. And when he couldn't do things just right, he'd bring us the candlestick to watch the other giants named Willie do everything masterfully. Baseball always gave us our context. What's the score? One of us would always ask. And the other would always know. We followed the score. But of course, there were seasons when not even baseball could save us. Before I was out of middle school, my father was an aging senior, and I was going to father-son events alone. I mean, he wasn't a father. He was also my grandfather. By the time I was 12 years old, I was an ageist. Not proud of that. We kept drifting apart, our lives patterned like a baseball diamond. He was the first baseline, I was the third baseline, a field apart, connected only at home. And then I went to college on the East Coast, where I learned a little about the hardship and racism endured by Filipino immigrants, like my dad in the 1920s. I learned about the anti-miscegenation laws that dictated his life story. Men from the Philippines immigrated in droves, mostly as laborers. By comparison, few Filipino women were allowed to come to America. No one wanted to see Filipino families thrive here. I never fully understood why, after coming to America in 1928, my father lived a bachelor's life until the 1950s. I thought maybe it was by choice, or lack of social skills, or maybe because he wore weird plaid shirts. I never saw it as a function of the kind of wastefulness that comes from a racism that held him back, that really prevented him from realizing his full potential. Or maybe he used it up just coming to America. But history taught me about my dad. And through it, I found a clear path to my father. Perhaps a little late, but it did set up our ninth inning perfectly. The final outs. On the Wednesday, it was the Wednesday before Father's Day, 1978. We did a day game. My treat. We were a striking pair. I was wearing a sports jacket and a tie so we could get a businessman's discount. He was in a Giants cap and running shoes and acting like a rascal, cutting in line, running about, me in tow. Had a lot of energy. Back then, seats cost $1.50 to sit in left field. But the little guy wanted to sit closer, so he sneaked down past security and wound up in prime third base territory. During the game, we enjoyed our passion quietly. Fancying myself a broadcaster, I did play-by-play in my head. Every now and then I would turn to Dad for a little color. He was involved with the drama himself in between bites of his homemade adobo sandwich. Vinegary pork bits on white bread, tastier than a ballpark frank. The Giants celebrated our outing with a fine performance. They fought back to take the lead from the visiting Phils. And then it was up to Vita Blue to mow them down in the bottom of the ninth. The Phil stars, Greg Lazinski, Mike Schmidt, both struck out to end the game. My dad and I stood and cheered in wild appreciation. which led to our only real conversation of the day. Would the Giants get through June and go all the way? My dad was willing to take a psychic flyer on that one. They will go all the way now. They will go all the way now, he said. As it was, the Giants didn't. And neither did my dad. 2 hours later, back home, after seeing the game highlights on the local news, my father died on that June 14th, before Father's Day. Hardening of the arteries, the doctor said. But deep in my heart, I knew it was pennant fever. That was a show. Yeah, I remember saying that story live. Well, was I live? I think it was on tape at NPR when I did it back in, I think it was 1990, maybe the second year that I was there. Because I don't think I was there for the first year. I mean, no, I guess I was, but it had already, I think it was the second, I think it was 1990. And I remember getting a lot of good feedback from listeners. And it just became my Father's Day essay. And I published it it was in the book, my collection of essays. And then since I've been writing the AlDef blog in all the different publications, there's been a version of that story. And I tell it, although, when I tell about my dad in Emil, Amok, Lost NPR host, I don't really tell the story of the game, because the game I kind of preserve for the print version. But maybe in the next version of Emil, Amok, Lost NPR host, I'll get into the game and I'll get into the aftermath of the game. Because sometimes, you do journalism and you're limited to, say, 800 words or 900 words. You make some sacrifices and you cut out some things. And maybe in the subsequent live oral versions, I'll do the whole thing. But here's the thing, I'll do the real thing based on where I am now. Because there's a lot of things I discovered about my father, since NPR, since going to Harvard and going into the stacks and understanding Filipino-American history. This is part of storytelling, right? That it changes based on the audience, based on how you feel, based on how everyone feels, based on what you remember. But isn't it true that as you tell a story, the last time you tell it calcifies it just a little bit, and that becomes the true story? That becomes the thing. Hey, in many ways, it's sort of like stand-up, where you have the basic story and the joke, how the joke mechanism works, the setup, and how to get to the punchline. And I'll talk to many comedians and they'll say, God, I've been working on that joke for 10 years. I've been working on that joke for 40 years. I've been working on that joke for, however long. But sometimes you say it right, you screw it up. Sometimes it's the right audience. And sometimes it's just magical, where you say it and it's perfect and you got to roll back the tape and hear it and say, man, how did that come out whole? Perfect and right. That's what happens with stand-up. I mean, so you can go see a comedian for the first show and see the second show and know it's probably going to be different. Probably. I mean, if the comedian is worth his or her salt, right? Anyway, that was my Father's Day story. And it's really ironic that, sometimes the day June 14th is the actual day of Father's Day. Sometimes it's a little before, sometimes it's a lot before, and sometimes it's just spot on day of. And of course, June 14th is also memorable or forgetful because June 14th is Flag Day, and it's also Donald Trump's birthday. So I'm wondering, I hope you're not flying the flag upside down. Because that would be the thing. If you were a MAGA type celebrating Donald Trump's, you would be flying the American flag upside down. So maybe Donald Trump's birthday is the bad thing that happened, or the good thing that, bad thing, well, I got to work on that one. But it is kind of ironic. Trump's birthday, my dad's death day. I'm not going to forget this day. I will say this. My dad, despite the fact he had some conservative tendencies, was a tried and true Democrat. He was always the first to say, did you vote? Go out there and vote. Got to vote. Union cook. You know, he did not go into the valley when he got here in 1928. He didn't go to the valley to pick asparagus, although some of his buddies and relatives did. My father was always going to be the cook. I'm the cook. I'm going to be in the restaurants. And so he did not see as much of the pain that Filipinos who went into the valley did. But my father saw some pain in apartments in San Francisco where it was often 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to a room. They shared rooms, they shared cars. And because there are no women, oh, do they share that too? Well, sometimes Filipinos, white. Look, those anti-miscegenation laws were real. You couldn't cross the white girl line. And that's why a lot of them were bachelors. If they weren't able to find a Filipino woman, or you could date, as a Filipino, you could date an African American, you could date a Latina, a Mexican, a lot of Mexicanos, a lot of Black and Filipino intermarriages. But white intermarriages were verboten unless you went to a state where it was legal. I think you could go, I don't know, Kansas? I think you could go to Kansas. There are places where Filipinos went. So I'm marrying this white girl. You're not going to stop me. Love. That was love. My father was lucky. He married a Filipino woman who came to the United States during World War II. They met here. That's history, right? But you don't understand these things. I like I said, I thought the reason why my father never married was because I guess my father didn't have a rap. My father didn't have it, maybe he couldn't dance. And I never saw him dance, really. My father could cook, though. My father could cook. That's a reason why women would like a guy. Oh, you can cook. Make me queen for a day. Every day. Cook. Do you clean? We'll hire that out. I just, my dad was a cook, did all the cooking. My mom actually did the cleaning. And we never owned a house. We always were renters. So you know what that means, right? We didn't own a car. So you could say, well, we're a lot like New Yorkers. We didn't own a house. We rented all the time. My father couldn't take advantage of the GI Bill where Filipinos were allowed to become citizens if they went to war. He became a citizen another way when they were allowing Filipinos to become citizens. But my father was 4F. We were talking about D-Day over the course of the last week or so. It's important because Filipinos in the 1st and 2nd Regiment, it was a segregated army. The Filipinos had their own army. The Japanese Americans had their own army. And they saw it as a way to prove how American they were. And I know it pained my father that he wasn't in the military. Not that he wanted that for me. But the fact that he wasn't able to serve meant he couldn't take advantage of the GI Bill. He couldn't buy a house. He couldn't do many of the things, the economic things that becoming a military guy and a citizen could mean to a Filipino family. So we were always in and out of places, renting, almost went into public housing. And I think he didn't like the bus line. He didn't like the bus line to the public housing project. So the one we were looking at, no, we're not going there. Anyway, my father, it was a day game. So as I speak now, that was a time when we really were at the game. It was a day game. It wasn't a night game. And usually I check out the Giants schedule to see, well, who's playing. Maybe I'll go see a game. And if it was a day game, for sure I'd consider it, but they're playing at night. And I don't mind going down to the ballpark. I would take in up to, at one point during the championship years, 2010 to the end of 2015, I was going to maybe 30, 40, 50 day games or 50 games, period, because I had season tickets for a while and then I had access. But it's a haul. The teams were good. They're not good now. But anyway, they weren't good when my dad and I would see them because Willie Mays wasn't playing Willie Mays was playing when we were young and I went to the game and the games were special. But on this final game, I can't remember anyone but Vida Blue, who was really spectacular on the Giants. They didn't have many great players. It's sort of like now. They don't have many great players. It'd be nice if they had one great player, like an Aaron Judge or a Mike Trout or something like. They got Logan Webb, who's a great pitcher. But you can't pitch every day. And the Giants need a spark every day. Anyway, it's a night game tonight, so I'll probably watch it on TV. I'll remember where we were on the third base side, and I'll be somewhat nostalgic. One of the things I regret, as I said in the essay, is my father and I didn't talk much. We didn't communicate. And that's because the generation gap was a lot further off than it usually is between fathers and sons. We didn't have a lot to say. And then there were events when I went to father-son events alone. I mean, I was MVP for the Pop Warner football team when I was 12 years old and showing up on myself to hoist up my MVP trophy. I was that good a player. And I didn't even know where my father was. I think he was at the racetrack. But it didn't mean he didn't love me. It didn't mean I didn't love him. It just meant that we did our own thing. Which, as I think about now, is kind of sad. But once I knew the history, once I knew why he was the way he was, it wasn't just because, hey, here I am. I'm a Filipino American. Let's do this. I mean, once I realized the historical pressures on him, adding to the fact that there were generational pressures on him, I understood why he was the way he was. And it's been a blessing because I've spent most of my life trying to understand that, trying to understand how his being here in America, how that impacted me. I mean, it's, in some ways you could say, come on, Emil. It's been so long. It's been so long. Isn't it time to just drop this and forget about it? Yeah, maybe. But if you don't constantly remember, don't constantly talk about this story, then it will be forgotten. And only you'll know it. And I'm not the only one who should know this story. It should be known by everyone. And every Asian American shares a similar story about their fathers and how they came here and what they had to endure and what they had to go through. Chinese. The Chinese were bachelor societies. All Asian Americans, or all Asians in America who came from foreign lands, went through this because they went through exclusions. They went through laws that said, no, you're not right. And as I said earlier this week in a show, there was this webinar given by the group Den Show. And it said, hey, you know, there probably were some gay Asian Americans in your family that you don't even know about. And I was intrigued. I went to the webinar. I attended by phone. I didn't do it by Zoom. But what the interesting thing is, you don't realize that if there were gay people in the Asian American community, how would you know? I mean, it's not the kind of thing that you document, the kind of thing that you go online or, you know, you look up at a library. I mean, it really is a thing where everyone was in the closet out of self-defense. No one could speak freely. And so unless you had a firsthand comment from someone, or your Uncle George told me this and this is his life and now I want to tell you. I mean, or unless Uncle George was still alive and he could say, hey, this is how it went down. You're not going to know. Which is another reason why these stories are important to tell and to develop, to find, and let people in our modern day know how it was in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. Because unless we keep telling them, they will be forgotten. And we just can't afford that. We can't afford that. So, happy Father's Day to you all. You know, I usually start that essay by saying, Father's Day does not belong to me. And I thought at one point it would, because I've got 3 kids, 3 great kids, and love them all. And they do what they do to honor me on Father's Day. But I always feel unworthy. I always feel like my father took the gamble. My father took the journey. My father came as a colonized Filipino, an American national. You know, what did I do? I'm an American. I was given all the chance and opportunity. I made my choices. I lived with them. But I really did not do what the great wave of immigrants did when they came in the 20s. When they fought the discrimination they faced. They made sure that it was a little easier for people like me. And I know there are people younger than me who are saying, come on, Emil, how bad is the discrimination now? It's hardly bad. Some people would say, some of the younger ones who see the world as their oyster, as it were, and say, discrimination? Hell no. I'm MAGA. I'm voting for Trump. Let's make America great again. You mean like back to the 1920s or 30s, where the most exclusionist Immigration Act was passed in 1924, 100 years ago? That's kind of a nice round number to go back on. It's true. Immigration laws determined Asian America. Immigration laws determined what Asian America would be like, or that it would even exist if it weren't for that 1965 Immigration Act. Now they don't even want to go and pass an immigration. There's no Immigration Act that they're working on. Everything that they're working on gets canceled because the Republicans don't want the Democrats to have the upper hand. It forces the Democrats to compromise, and now the compromise is, well, there's no compromise now. But the Biden administration is doing a version of the compromise where they're putting caps on how many people can apply for asylum. Now, the immigration law, you look back and see how it's transformed, how it's changed Asian Americans. And like I said, 65, that was the big one. That allowed Asian Americans in. That reversed the quotas on Asia. And exactly when were those quotas on Asia put in? 1924, 100 years ago. And sometimes, the politics of today, no different, really, than 1924. Not much different. God help us. God help us. All right, so I'm going to go off and prepare for my Giants game tonight. I'm not going to go. I'm going to watch it on TV. I'm going to take the modern out. Think about my father. Think about fathers and Father's Day this Sunday. Happy Father's Day to all of you fathers and to all of you who are celebrating your fathers. It's important. This is the day we think about it. And I like the attitude. It's your day, Dad. Whatever you want. Carte blanche. I love that attitude. They don't necessarily like what I'd ask for, but I love the attitude. Whatever you want, Dad. It's your day. It's not kids' day. It's your day. I love that attitude. So be kind to your father. Do something nice. He didn't mean to be a jerk. When he was there, he was doing it for you. He was doing it for you. He was a good guy. And if your father is still alive, you're lucky to have him, because there's many of us who are saying, God, what I would tell him, what I would want to tell him, what I would want to show him now. So we prepare for next week. Next week is the beginning of the Vincent Chin. It's like a retreat, a Vincent Chin retreat starting on the 19th, which is Juneteenth, where you just think and reflect for the next 4 or 5 days about what happened to Vincent Chin. It's helpful just to think each day, spend a minute or two thinking about the hate violence toward Vincent Chin, why he was killed, and subsequently what happened to him. So we'll talk more about that next week. Also, yeah, it's funny because the whole thing coincides with me being at this World Series of Comedy. So maybe because the pain is so great, the comedy will be even greater. One can hope. I'll be at the World Series of Comedy, Satellite, Tacoma Comedy Club, 6th and Proctor. Don't go downtown. Go to the 6th and Proctor one if you're in Tacoma. And check it out. Go to my Aldef blog. All right, and you go find the link. Find the link on the Aldef blog. It's down at the bottom. Right? Down at the bottom, you'll find the link. I did it earlier. Yeah, there it is, down at the bottom. It's at VIPTicketHub.com/Tacoma tickets. Click on that. Use the code GIVE. Get your tickets half price, like $13. That's great. If you want a live stream ticket, go check off live stream for the June 19th Tacoma Comedy Club event. And those are available for a donation. So you can essentially see that show essentially for free. So that's fun. That is fun. All right, so that's it for our show today. Hey, look, have a great Father's Day. You know, I did want to mention the bump stocks, and I know I failed to mention the bump stocks. It's depressing, the bump stock story, because once again, like the mifepristone story, the abortion pill, they didn't say yay for the abortion pill. They said it was a process thing. The mifepristone was a process thing. This one was another procedural thing where they said, hey, the AFT, the alcohol, firearms, and tobacco folks within the U.S. bureaucracy, they can't make rulings that say a machine gun or a semi-automatic weapon with a bump stock is a machine gun. That's like, you know, Clarence Thomas said, hey, it's still a single trigger. But see, he's focusing on one aspect of a definition. And as Sonia Sotomayor pointed out in her dissent, hey, wait a minute. Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck. It's not merely a semi-automatic weapon with the bump stock. It is a machine gun. It should be banned. And you know, a lot of people didn't give up their bump stocks when they should have, when the law went into effect a couple of years ago, after the Las Vegas shooting, 2017. But 60 people died? I mean, this is a crazy thing. We are no further along in fighting the gun companies, the gun advocates, are no further along in gun control when we have these bonehead decisions like Clarence Thomas's today that said, hey, you can't call that a machine gun. It's still a semi-automatic weapon. You just added a thing. It's like Clarence Thomas probably doesn't believe in trans women, but he believes in trans guns. He said, hey, it's semi-automatic weapon. It's a trans gun. Put on a bump stock. It's a machine gun. Clarence Thomas said, no, it's still a semi-automatic weapon. Still. So he's bringing all his trans ideas are all like bundled together. Oh, that's not a trans, that's a man. That's a man. So the fight is on. I mean, it's going to be, the Supreme Court has set a precedent here, but there will be people on the gun control side who will continue to fight against bump stocks, although people are saying, hey, bump stocks are coming back. I hope not. I hope not. All right, on that note, we say goodbye. Back next week. We're here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific Live. Catches. And and see my new friend, Cliff Cash, Deaf Puppy Comedy Club, tonight, 7 and 9 o'clock. It's in Manteca. Yeah, they grow comedy there. Yeah, comedy in Manteca. People laugh. Yeah. They have teeth. That's the one place in the Central Valley where they have teeth. The other places, sometimes they do something. It depends on the meth use, But Mantecans, they need the teeth. They have teeth. No, it's a great club. Greg, and I'm calling it my home club. I'm calling it my home club. I love that place. Great place. Deaf Puppy Comedy Club. Check it out. Okay, so we like to close with a little meditation because a little meditation goes a long way. It does. Just you're sending out the love for Dad this week. Send it out for everyone. While you're at it, just send it out because you'll find that it'll get you in the mood. You send it out for one, Dad. Send it out there. You'll send it out to uncles. You'll send it out. And don't just waste it on the guys. Send it out to the gals. Send it out to everyone. This is a good time. It's a good time. It's a love time. Send out the love because this is what happens. It's truth. It comes back twofold. It's a boomerang effect. Comes back twofold. Don't forget the love on Father's Day. So a little loving kindness. Send it out first to others. It comes back and gets you where you need it. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Check out my columns on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. Happy Father's Day, everyone. Emil Amok, Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Mahal